So it's that time to reveal how to assemble the GoPro handle and also show you guys where you can get files to build this awesome little doohickey. So let's talk about it. First of all, sorry if the video is going to have a bunch of jump cuts, guys, but I accidentally cracked somehow my good memory card and my memory card that only lets me record for like 30 seconds at a burst. Then I got to restart the cameras in it, so bear with it. That said, let's go very quickly over some recommended settings for the printing of these parts and then get around to assembling it. When it comes to the handles, due to the use of these wonderful brass inserts, I personally used 3 perimeters, I know it's a little bit excessive, and 50% infill. The only reason being is because these do expand. I wanted them to be expanding into a relatively solid piece of plastic, and the handles are pretty structurally important to the part, so I'd highly recommend using a fair bit of infill and some perimeters. I mean, they're small, they're not going to use a ton of filament, but I'd much rather be safe than sorry. It's always better to use a little more filament the first time around than crack apart and have to reprint it and all that stuff. When it comes to the upper part and the lower part, I just went with, I believe, 2 perimeters and like 20% infill. Nothing very fancy. Due to the use of the countersunk slots on these guys, I did not have to use any supports, with the exception of little GoPro slot mount right there. That does require support material. Do keep that in mind, that you are going to have a little bit of support material in there. Be careful when removing it, and you should be able to get in there with some sandpaper, smooth everything out, and get the clip to mount in there nicely. Because I use Simplify 3D, I was able to pull the supports out very easily, and it worked fine for me. Surface finish doesn't need to be perfect, as long as you can get the clip to slide in and out. That is what is important. As for the overall handle material, doesn't really matter. Quite honestly, I built this from PLA plastic. This is Protopasta's everyday PLA. I do want to eventually build one out of nylon, maybe Nylon X from Matter Hackers or something similar. We'll see. But PLA has served me just fine on all the other GoPro handles that I've made, with exception of the single-handled one, but that's a different story. So now that we've covered some of the key details, let's go ahead and show you guys how to assemble this bad boy. And one other thing to keep in mind, when you go to build this, definitely do a test print to make sure that your O-rings and your brass inserts are going to fit as you had intended. The fit of the brass inserts is more important than the fit of the O-rings, so keep that in mind. The brass inserts, you want them to snugly fit into the hole, but you don't want them to be impossible to fit in there. That's just something important to keep in mind. First thing that you're going to want to do is install the O-rings onto the handle. This is pretty simple. I did this one as an example on camera. So what you're going to need is your O-rings, which are these guys. As always, link is in the video description. Just going to want to take them out. And installation is very simple. You have the part, you have the O-ring, and it just slips right on. You can then pull it down if you need to. So let me just do this real fast. Now we have both the O-rings on. If for whatever reason your O-rings are overly loose on your handles, you can come along and use a little bit of adhesive such as cyanoacrylate or super glue. Just put a very tiny drop on the end of a Q-tip and then touch it to the handle, and it should fit in there, soak into there via capillary action just fine. These particular inserts are unique in the fact, sorry if it's blurry, that they have a little slit in them. So as you insert the screw, they will in turn, when you insert the screw, these will expand into the plastic. You do not want them too tight on insertion though, or you will crack the plastic item that you are working with, and or just not even be able to get the screw in there. I had that happen in the past and it was really frustrating. So I've designed the opening so that way there is definitely a little bit of a recess between the top and the bottom, but this insert is in there good and tight. So the proper way to insert it is, I like to put it a couple of turns, no more than 2 or 3, onto a screw so it gives me a handle. Start it into the hole, take my fingers and pop it in there like that. Now obviously If you do not have the world's strongest hands, you can definitely gently tap it in there with a light mallet. Just like I said before, you don't want to go pushing it in there crazy hard or bad things will happen. Now that that guy is done, let's go jump onto the other one. So at this point, we can take our top plate and we can take our bottom plate that have been hiding in plain sight the whole time and go ahead and assemble this. So assembly is pretty straightforward. So obviously you put the screw into the hole. Make sure you're using the countersunk side of the part so that way you get that nice below the surface effect. And then we can just screw the parts in, keeping an eye on our crappy SD card that likes to freeze at random times, which drives me insane. Then we can take our bottom plate and do the exact same thing. And there you have it. Now, a couple of tips when you go to assemble this is number one, you don't need to crank the living daylights out of the fasteners, nor would I recommend doing it. No more than snug is going to be fine. This is literally tightened up using the world's crappiest freebie screwdriver I probably stole off my dad years ago. Sorry, Dad. Hope you don't mind. But literally, I just snugged these down. If you do notice that the brass inserts are not fitting into the hole perfectly, what you can do is come along with a tiny drop of super glue, put on a toothpick and apply it to just the edge of the insert. Although I personally do not recommend doing that, you could do that. That said, assembly of the handle should be relatively simple. The only tricky parts, as mentioned, with the O-rings and the inserts, so just keep that in mind. You might want to only print part of the handle and double check everything fits, and then go ahead and print a full one, but that's totally a decision up to you. As for me, I got some stuff to work on, so I'll see you here next time on Make It With Calvin. And if you want to build your own GoPro handle, I'll have links to where you can purchase the files for cheap from Pinshape. It's a great way that you can support the channel and what I'm doing, and I promise it's not very expensive. And as for me, I got some homework to do, you know, college life. It's not fun. Oh well, see you around.